Me collect my log. Restricted to the confines of the collection log, he's in a race against death himself to amass a comprehensive collection of the many treasures that span the world of Gielinor. And with 1,521 unique items, there is plenty to collect for this account. I'm not sure if you can make it to the finish line, but there's only one way to find out. So join us on this journey to take on RuneScape's most substantial grind. Welcome to Collection Locked. First and foremost, what we're going to be doing is dropping everything that is in our inventory and on our person that came from Tutorial Island, as none of that is in the collection log. And yes, that also does include the free 25 coins that are in my bank, as coins also are not a part of the collection log. While we're here in Vera collecting the collection log, I want to say a few things about the account. I'm a Hardcore Ironman that has one life to obtain as many collection log slots as I can, and if I die, it's game over. As with any Snowflake Ironman, there's going to be some rules and exceptions to that. And that is, I can only use items found within the collection log, and every 10 uniques is an item exception. These item exceptions are not found within the log, but help me progress to content found in the log. An example being, I need rope in order to climb down into God War's dungeon, or I need a spade to do clue scrolls, runes to train magic. I think you get the point. Not sure if the number 10 is too lax or too strict, so we'll have to play it out and see how we're feeling later on and maybe adjust the number a bit. But as of right now, we're going to keep it 10 to 1. Now this 10 to 1 ratio brings us to a theoretical cap of 152 exceptions to get through the collection log. And that may sound like a lot, but when you think about it, it's not really game breaking considering how far you have to go for some of the items that you find in the collection log. But the issue with an account like this is not so much the exceptions that you need, but it's the collection log itself. I think we can all agree that collecting all 1,521 items is an extremely unrealistic goal. So as a more realistic goal, let's try 800 collection log slots. So 800 collection log slots before death can claim my soul. Let's try that. The main objective of the Hardcore Ironman mode is pretty simple. Don't die. But as a collection log restricted account, that's pretty difficult to do because there's such a limited source of food that I have. And the only source of food that I have is purple sweets. So what I'm doing here is building up to level 5 thieving, to then which I can go to Ardoin and thieve cakes. And before I'm able to go get those cakes, I need to get myself 10 collection log slots in order to unlock my first exception. So after getting level 5 thieving, I teleported to Casket Wars and got started. The reason why I went to Casket Wars is because it is a minigame that anyone of any level in the game can go and get Casket Wars tickets to redeem for collection log items. Each item in the Casket Wars ticket exchange is sold for a different price, with the cheapest being 4 tickets and the most expensive being 800. There's a total of 39 potential collection log slots I can get from Casket Wars, and I can get 31 of those if I just get 100 tickets. And getting the extra 700 tickets to finish off the collection log right now this early into the count is not exactly worth my time because it takes 20 minutes to finish a game, and per game you get at most 3 tickets. And that is only if you do get a shutout win. I decided just for now just to get 50, and that alone took me about 7.5-8 hours to do. But I will be coming back here to get the other 50 tickets to finish off the 31 collection log slots I can easily get from here. With our 50 Casket Wars tickets, we have redeemed ourselves 22 collection log slots out of the 39 potential ones that we could have gotten from Casket Wars, which is more than enough that we can possibly need right now. Out of these 22 collection log slots, I have unlocked 2 weapons that we can use on the account, the Decorative Sword Red and the Decorative Sword White. The red Decorative Sword has the same stats as a black longsword, and the white version has the same stats as a mithril longsword. Though they still do have attack requirements to be able to wield them, with the red sword having a requirement of level 5 attack and the white sword having a requirement of level 20. So until we hit level 5 attack, our only weapon that we can use is our bare fists. Since we now have 22 collection log slots on the account, that means we now have 2 exceptions. I'm going to spend the first exception on the spade here because it's basically impossible to do clues without a spade. Clues alone are responsible for a couple hundred collection log slots, so this account pretty much relies on it. And also there are a couple other places in the game that you do need a spade, such as farming and even a few quests. So now with this spade and any future exceptions that I have, I can drop it, pick it up, any spawns, any shops, anything like that, like a normal account would get a spade, I can obtain it just like that. My second and last exception on the account for now is going to be cakes. As I said earlier, it's pretty difficult to survive as a Hardcore Ironman that's 10 HP without any sort of food, and for now cakes are going to be just fine. And I also do want to clarify, I can only pick up and store items that are exceptions. So the bread that is currently in my inventory, I have to drop that no matter what. Any monster drop that I get, I have to drop it. I can't pick it up. Anything like that. If it's not on the exceptions list, I cannot do anything at all with it. And what do spades, cakes, and thieving all have in common? It is the ham hideouts. At level 15 thieving, you can pickpocket ham members for a 1 in 50 chance at an easy clue scroll. As I said before, clue scrolls are responsible for a couple hundred collection log slots, so it is a good idea to get started on them pretty early on the account. So what I ended up doing is staying at ham members for quite a long time. I ended up getting about 10, 11 caskets. And the first casket on the account does grant us a unique. It is a wooden shield G, which it looks really cool, but a collection log slot is a slot, and it builds up to our collection log. Also, while doing that clue scroll, I did get level 5 attack along the way, so now I can wield that red decorative sword. And when you combine the sword with the wooden shield G, you get this absolute Chad. I got tired of waiting around twiddling my thumbs for my run energy to restore, so I decided to train agility to help improve that restoration speed, and I also, of course, got the Mark of Grace. So I hung around Draenor a little bit longer, and I did get level 24 agility, so the run energy restoration should be quite a bit better. And right now I just want to outline my intentions and guidelines with this account as clear as possible, and you know, while you're here, you might as well subscribe. Anyways, I might regret what I'm about to say, since I know it's going to come back and bite me in the future, and that is, I am not allowing myself to use any non-collection log slot item that is equipable on my character. I feel like it is a huge part of the integrity of the account, because it would be so easy to say something like, oh, by the way, I'm using a Dragon Scimitar as one of my exceptions, you know? Like, no, we're not going to be doing that around here. That's just way too easy. So none of that. It has to be a collection log item. So the problem with that is training ranged and magic. Of course, I cannot not use arrows or runes for the respective combat styles, so the exception is I must be wielding a collection log item to use that combat style, which leaves us locked from using ranged and magic until we get the 2 items. The rainbow for ranged and the staff of Bob the Cat. Yes, that is a real item, and I didn't know it existed until I made this account. Those are both easy clue uniques, and that have about a 1 in 1400 chance per roll, so yeah, good luck to me. And amongst all the gathering the caskets, I did unlock Farlamore by doing the quest because one of the clues had to lead me there. And I did X marks the spot since I did have the spade, and that was the only requirement for the quest. And it gives you a beginner clue as a reward for the quest, which I might as well give it a shot, see what it gives me, but unfortunately I couldn't do it. And at this point, I am building up the 43 prayer because that is going to allow me to get into higher PVM, which is also another major pillar to this account since bosses account for a lot of collection log slots. So getting 43 prayer will be a nice entry to that. And the first step I took to getting 43 prayer is doing Restless Ghost. As you may know, it takes you from level 1 prayer all the way to level 9. And the one thing about the Restless Ghost is that while you don't need 80 items to start and finish the quest, you are given and must use the Amulet of Ghost Speak. Now the Amulet of Ghost Speak, I am going to say, is not going to be an exception, and it of course is not a collection log item. So why can I use it? Put it as simple as possible. I think having to use exceptions on quest items is not the best. It's going to be a huge waste of exceptions, and it's for items that I'm only going to be using once or twice ever on the account. So why would I use exceptions on that? I think it would just make things a little bit easier, since already for quests you're going to need a bunch of items that I am going to be using maybe a few times on the account. So to add on to that is just going to lock me out of a lot of content in the long run. So now it is time for the grand opening. Firstly, I'm going to use all these XP lamps and this tome on prayer because, as I said, I want to rush 43 prayer as soon as possible. And after all that, we do end up with level 12 prayer. Now, as for the caskets, I'm going to be honest, it's a little underwhelming. I do get purple sweets here, which is nice and all. I might use it during the fight caves. Other than that, I don't really have a use for it. Right here, I do get the black plate body H5. It's the same exact stats as a black plate body, except it looks a little bit cooler. And believe it or not, it is actually the best defensive item I could have gotten from an easy clue scroll. But other than that, it's just a bunch of junk for the rest of the clues. So I'm sorry to disappoint. I wish there was more. Now that that's out of the way, I want to get my combat level up, because what I want to do in the near future is to do pest control. Now to start pest control, you do need level 40 to get on the lowest tier boat, the novice boat. And the method of how I'm going to get my combat level up is by training on chickens and lumberage. I looked through Waterfall quest and the Grand Tree and all these different quests. Like, how could I do them at such a low level without all these exceptions I have to make? I couldn't find a way. I couldn't theory craft away or anything, so it looks like I have to go back to the old days and just sit in Lumbridge and the cow pens and the chickens and train my combat stats that way. If there is one thing chickens are good for, it's beginner clues. However, I did one and I got a whole pile of nothing, as expected from beginner clues. But after a little while, the mere chickens weren't enough, so I went to the almighty cows just next door, and that did bring me up to level 20 attack, which now means I can wield the white decorative sword, which offers the same stats as a mithril longsword, so it is a bit of an upgrade compared to my current sword. I went back to Casket Wars, got another 50 tickets for a total of 101, and used all those tickets to get 9 extra collection log slots for a total of 39. Now I still have that one exception I still haven't used yet, and I am just one more away from a 4th exception. There is another way to get a lot of collection log slots pretty early on the account, and this method will involve combat, and that will be getting HCIM armor. Now in HCIM there is a combat ring, and in this combat ring there are 5 NPCs in their own respective tier, and each tier gets harder than the previous one. But the trade-off is the higher the tier, the better armor that you get. Each NPC has 5 pieces of armor, so 5 tiers times 5 pieces of armor will give me 25 collection log slots if I go through all the tiers. With the stats that we have on the account now, we're very unlikely going to be able to complete all 5 tiers, so for now we are just going to be doing the first 4 tiers, which will net us a total of 20 collection log slots. After getting the first 4 tiers of the HCIM armor, I now have a total of 58 collection log slots, which is 2 more from the 6th exception. However, I haven't used a 3rd, 4th, or 5th exception, and I have a good idea where I could put those exceptions to good use. The next step is going to be Holy Grail. Holy Grail will bring me to about 29 or 30 prayer, which is a massive leap in experience. But there is just one catch. Holy Grail does require the quest Merlin's Crystal to be completed, and Merlin's Crystal does require 4 exceptions that need to be made. Those 4 items being bread, tinderbox, bucket, and bat bones. And since I haven't used it yet, I'm going to be using my 3rd exception here on bread, my 4th exception on the bucket, and my 5th exception on the tinderbox. And I just need 2 more collection log slots to get the 6th exception for the bat bones. This is going to be the 60th collection log slot, the blue wizard hat T. And also I do want to mention, I did do another clue, which I got 3 collection log slots. I'll put it up on screen now. For some reason it wasn't recorded, but there's the proof. Which leads us to getting our 6th exception, the bat bones. And after all that, we are finally able to complete Merlin's Crystal, and now it is time to complete Holy Grail, which wasn't too bad. The Black Knight Titan kind of gave me a hard time due to my low combat stats, but we finished the quest anyway, and there is 29 prayer and 35 defense. I also did use the XP lamp on prayer, which didn't give me a level, but it does bring me pretty close to level 30 prayer. It was at this point where I thought I was ready to do some pest control, but unfortunately, reality hit me pretty hard. Despite being on the lowest tier, the novice boat, I died not once, but twice. And it was, to be honest, pretty humiliating. And I almost nearly died a 3rd time. I had 1 HP, but the game ended. But since my game activity was so low due to me not being able to hit any portals or enemies, I was not awarded with any points, so it looks like I have to go back to training my combat stats even more. And that's when I made a vow to myself. I am not going back to pest control until I have tier 5 HCIM armor. I feel like if I can defeat the tier 5 HCIM NPC for his armor, then surely I should be able to do the novice boat on pest control. So after exiling myself at Sand Crabs in Hosidius, I've gotten myself 50 attack, 50 strength, 45 defense, and 48 hit points, which is a substantial upgrade compared to where I was just a little bit ago. So I went to the tier 5 HCIM soldier to claim back some dignity that I lost, and what do you know, it was pretty easy. And that is an easy 5 collection log slots to the log, which also means I have green logged my first tab, the HCIM armor tab. And instead of rushing back to pest control, I decided to relax and do some easy clues. My first casket back, I do get a Jagex page 4, which may not be the best item, but it is a collection log slot, so we'll take that. In our next casket, we do get 2 uniques actually, the black pickaxe and the Zamorak robe bottom. We can skip the need of having to use an exception to be able to trade mining in the first place by using the black pickaxe straight away if we do find a way to get level 11 mining. I'm still in no hurry to get back to pest control, so I decided to stack up my Marks of Grace stack, and I did ended up getting level 40 agility. Now when I hit level 40 agility, I did get the idea of I should do Priest in Peril because I already have the bucket, so now all I need is the pure essence. So I went to the Minotaurs that are found in the Stronghold of Security. They drop pure essence, 15 noted, and a 1 in 20 roughly drop rate. It did take me a while, but I did end up getting the pure essence and therefore finishing the quest. Which now means I have access to Canifis and the rest of Mauritania, which has a lot of potential collection log slots such as Barrows, but for now, most importantly, I do have access to the Canifis agility course, which does net me by far the most Marks of Grace per hour. I do want to throw in as a little side note, while doing the Minotaurs, I did get the Right Skull half, which is a 1 in 33 drop rate, and on top of that, I did get the Beekeeper event, and I got the Boots, which is another collection log slot. I did go back to Castle Wars for a few extra tickets so I can afford the decorative white shield, as it is a substantial upgrade over the wooden shield G. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but anyways, this is what the gear looks like. Pretty solid, including the extra stats. I think we are ready to try pest control again, and hopefully maybe not die this time. When I went back to pest control, the difference between now and then was night and day. First of all, I didn't die at all, which is a good sign. Second of all, I was able to maintain my activity level, so I was eligible and got the reward points at the end of the round. My accuracy is still not the best, and I did struggle here and there, but overall we're still getting games done and we're winning, and that's all that matters. Though I do think it is best for me to stay by the Void Knight instead of rushing out to the portals, because in the few games that I played, I noticed that was our biggest issue, and you're not exactly going to see the most optimal high-end gameplay on a novice boat. So after every round you are awarded with coins, and coins are not a part of my exception list just yet, so I am going to have to be dropping them for now. Each win on the novice boat is only 3 points, which isn't a whole lot, but it's what we have to work with for now. And I decided to use 10 of my points on the Void Knight seal, which is a collection log item. The item itself is pretty useless, but nonetheless it is a collection log slot. After 30 to 35 games or so, I did accumulate enough points to drop 100 on the Prayer XP reward, which granted me just under 2k experience. And that is how I'm going to be grinding my way to 43 Prayer. This certainly will take some time. Also, if you did make it this far into the video, please subscribe, as it does help the channel a lot and it does show your interest, so I know if I should keep going with this or not. And on top of that, expect another 2005 Ultimate Ironman video in the near future, and hey, if you haven't watched that series yet, give it a shot. As for now, I won't be leaving pest control until we hit that 43 prayer mark. Until then, see you next time.